Turn it up. It's the Record Machine with your host, Jimmy Hall.
Hey, this is David Cagle.
And this is Jim Shepard from LastWorld, and you're listening to The Record Machine Show.
You're down on your luck and you don't give a damn. You're blinded by the light, you just can't see. You're feeling so low and you need a helping hand. Start by standing on your own 2 feet. You got to save yourself. Don't give up on everything that you need. Respect yourself. You've got to live your own life to be free. You've got to save yourself. Your mind is full of anger, your heart is full of rage. You just won't get the better part of me. A start of a new day, a turn of the page. It's time to stand up on your own 2 feet. You got to save yourself. Don't give up on everything that you need. Respect yourself. You got to live your own life to be free. Save yourself. You got to save yourself. Don't give up on everything that you need. Respect yourself. You got to live your own life to be free. Save yourself. Respect yourself. You got to live your own life to be free. You've got to save yourself.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome from the band LastWorld, multi-instrumentalist and songwriter Jim Shepard to the program.
Hey, Jim.
This is Jim.
How you doing, buddy?
Yes. I recognize your number after the a couple of days of miscommunication on time zones.
Yeah. I'm Eastern Standard Time.
Yeah.
I didn't realize you were in Chicago.
Yeah, it's where I'm based out of.
Cool. You a Cubs, White Sox fan, or neither?
Actually, neither.
Oh, okay.
Not much of a baseball or big sports fan.
Oh, okay. So you're not a Bears fan either, then, huh?
Well, I mean, I've watched the Bears here and there, and I've gone to a couple Cubs games, but I was just once I discovered guitars, everything else kind of went out the window.
That's pretty cool. Now, you grew up in Chicago?
Well, I'm actually in Indiana, just like 25 minutes outside of Chicago, but yeah, I pretty much grew up in this area.
That's
the Chicagoland area.
Yeah, so you mentioned before you weren't really a sports guy growing up. What age did you start getting into music?
I discovered the guitar when I was 12 years old, I want to say.
Wow.
Which is many, 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 many moons ago.
Uh-huh. And you took lessons, or you kind of just taught it yourself?
Well, what happened was my dad was a musician, and I don't think that gravitated me towards the music, but I picked up a guitar, and I was learning, kind of just power chord type songs on my own without any kind of lesson. And then when I went to stay with my dad for a while, he was like, "How are you learning that?" I'm like, "I'm just picking it up." And he actually took me in for some lessons. And my first experience with lessons was I was taught 3 chords, and then I would just keep playing these chords, and my instructor was just soloing over them.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, I want to learn to do that.
Of course.
So I never learned from them, but I ended up coming back to this area because my dad was at that time was in Rochester, Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
And then I came back to the area I'm now, just outside Chicago. And then, I'm like 13, and I hunted down the local music store and took lessons myself. And initially, I probably took 6 months worth of lessons.
Mm-hmm.
And then everything just kept going from there. And I learned more just by watching guitar players play than I did trying to study what white sheets of paper with black lines with little dots meant.
Right.
Over the years, I did learn how to read music, but it was still easier to learn from watching guitar players.
Wow. Now, you play more than one instrument too, right?
Well, yeah. As I learned the guitar, I had a love for all music.
Mm-hmm.
So my dad was a piano player, and he had taught me the middle C chord. So once I learned the middle C chord, everything I knew on guitar, I transposed to keyboard.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just started practicing keyboards from that. I never had a lesson on keyboards. Everything I know on keyboards now was just transposed from my knowledge of guitar.
Very cool. And you play bass as well, right?
Play bass. That came fairly easier than piano or keyboards did. But that I'm not your typical guitar player playing a bass. I play the bass guitar like it's a bass guitar. I love bass lines, and it's just not one note riding all the time.
Okay.
And then as for drums, I've always enjoyed drums, but I can't say that I'm a efficient drummer.
Okay.
So that's why for my music, I do some programming with live drums over it. That way it's all nice and neat.
Yeah, I read in your one of your bios, I think it was on Reverb Nation, that you're influenced by 70s and 80s pop and rock, and you even played in a country rock band. Is that how you cut your teeth in playing in bands, was playing with that country rock band?
Yeah, technically that was my first professional band. Because obviously, you're young, you have your basement and garage bands.
Mm-hmm.
But me and a buddy started a band, and the singer we had hired was more country.
Okay.
So we were back in the day. We were rocking out country, because me and my buddy weren't country guys, but we were rocking out country, what modern country is now today, because we were adding the distortion and crazy lead lines and all the guitar stuff. But yeah, it was a country rock band. So we played everything from Waylon Jennings to Prince to Journey.
Wow, that's pretty cool. And then I read in the 90s that you had a band called Taxi. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Oh, yes. Taxi was my baby. I had started that band from ground zero, and the idea for that was we were going to be a cover band that wrote and played some of our own songs, because I just didn't want to be a cover band. I enjoy playing all the cover bands I did over the years, but I wanted not to become famous, just to stay creative.
Mm-hmm.
So we... within the first year, we had recorded a full-length CD, which, we became pretty popular in the whole Chicago area, to the point where we were playing with Enough's Enough. We were playing with the Byrds. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Todd Rundgren we did shows with quite a bit. So we got, as being independent as we were, our album made it to Geffen and Atlantic Records. They were both looking at us at that time, and this is right before grunge really exploded.
Mm-hmm.
So that was, and we were a band for like 10 years. We every once in a while, and it's been a while now, but every 3 years we'd get together and do 2 or 3 shows, but it's not like a functioning unit anymore.
Will there ever be a reunion, you think?
I never say never, but at this point, I just don't see. The last show we did was 2013, I want to say, or maybe 2014. So it's been a while. So I never say never, but I just don't see it right now.
Yeah, you guys were dubbed like Northwest Indiana and Chicago's most popular band at that time, right?
Most, it all depends on who you ask. We definitely had lots of fans, but there were a lot of great bands in that area. We were a big draw, I'll say that. I mean, but it's hard to say who was the biggest, who was the top. We were popular, though.
Yeah. Tell me about LastWorld. When did that start? How did that come together?
Well, LastWorld started out of because I did a solo album called Jaded on Melodic Rock Records, and I used 3 friends who sang on the album because I don't sing. That's the only thing I don't do. But I used 3 singers for that record, and originally that was going to be a project, but my buddies never had all the time to record all the songs, so I ended up using 3. So I was the head of Melodic Rock Records asked if I would re-record the songs with one singer, and I'm like, well, no, not after all the work my buddies put in. So I told them, release the record as it is. If it does okay for you and you want to move forward with me, I will seek out a one-singer deal. So apparently my album Jaded did well enough that he wanted to keep working with me. So David Cagle's a name that I knew of because of everything he's done with different musicians. And then obviously the head of Melodic Rock Records had submitted his name to me too. So I contacted him, asked him if he'd be interested in doing a record. And originally, we didn't plan on it was going to be a 3-record thing or more. We did the first record, and we got really, really great reviews for it. I couldn't believe the reviews we were getting for it. But at that time, which we didn't know, the label was being sold. So our record was released, but they never put it out digitally, and then we didn't. The communication was getting short because he was trying to do all the deals behind closed doors and not letting anybody know what he was doing in selling the label. So when I didn't hear back from him for the second album, because he kept telling me, I'm going to release digitally, the first album, I contacted Perris Records and sent them like 3 songs and asked them if they'd be interested. And of course they were. And then the rest is there. They released Over the Edge, and which was pretty successful for them. And then I had asked them if they were interested in the third album, which is Fractured Mirror. They said obviously yes, we would be, and we made the deal to release the first album digitally through Perris Records. So happily, all albums are out now digitally too for the people that like to stream. That's
pretty cool. You just mentioned your brand new album, Fractured Mirror, on Perris Records. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, yes, it's a great album. Everyone should have it. No.
It is. It really is a great
album. I appreciate that. Well, with me, I write songs. I mean, I can't stop if I tried. Obviously, sometimes I can't write anything, but I just keep writing and writing. So, and everything on Fractured Mirror, except I want to say one song. Oh, let me take a look. Because I have no problem having an overabundance of unused material from years ago. So every once in a while, I would take out an old song that never got used for anything. And the song the song I Lose Again. Now, it was written way before Taxi was ever formed.
Wow.
It was another band I had with a buddy. So we never used that song. So putting this album together, I decided to pull that one out to see if it would end up good enough to be on the record. And it was. In my words, I hope people like it. But Fractured Mirror, the title, comes from 2 different sources. Obviously, we all have cracks in our foundation from our past, that helps shapes who we are. But I'm a big Ace Frehley fan, and he had an instrumental called Fractured Mirror.
Yeah,
and I've always liked that title. Yeah, I always liked that title. So I ended up, I gave David Cagle 2 choices that I was thinking about calling the album, and he picked Fractured Mirror. He liked better.
Yeah, that's a cool title. Now, did Nello do the cover?
Nello has done all LastWorld covers. I don't think I'll go anywhere else for future album covers. He does a great job.
Yeah, he's great. He's magnificent at what he does, isn't he?
Oh yeah, and he does it for so many artists and so many different labels. So I'm happy to be a small part in his repertoire.
Very cool. This podcast is going to feature 2 tracks off the new album, Save Yourself and Down on My Knees. What's the story behind each song?
Well, Save Yourself is about battling depression. And you can have the greatest friends and family in the world to help you through it. Mm-hmm. But, you got to be ready to admit, you got to pick yourself up. And but it's about saving yourself, admitting, hey, I need to change. But that's basically what Save Yourself is. Mm-hmm. Down on My Knees was just it was a cool title, and the lyrics, I didn't have anything specific when I wrote the lyrics, but it's about it formed after I had the title, how the song was about. So it was basically about no matter what, someone can still cut you down to size.
Over the years, you've shared the stage with Mel Hayes, Enough's Enough, and Todd Rundgren. What's that like?
Well, Mel Hayes was, he did a record for RCA Records, mm-hmm. and we're talking many moons ago, but I was his touring guitarist. Mm-hmm. He hired gun. It wasn't my music. It wasn't, but it was a great experience touring around the country, playing many of types of different shows. Mm-hmm. So it's a great experience, and it taught me a few things about discipline in music, because so many people I'm a musician. I don't have to follow rules, and every band that makes it, whether it's locally or huge, is a business. So there are rules. Yeah, it's not a normal 9-to-5 job, but it's still you got to have discipline to sustain something like that, mm-hmm. or achieve any kind of success. And I mean that literally. Local cover bands, if you're not disciplined to try to sound as good as you can and play together, no one's going to call you back for shows. So that was Mel Hayes and my experience with them. But man, off Broadway we done shows with too. Mm-hmm. It was very cool to play to their audience, people who might not have known who we were. Mm-hmm. But we always seemed to go over well, and I got to hang a little with off Broadway, and they seemed to be cool guys. Todd Rundgren, he kind of stayed off to his own little thing, mm-hmm. and then in passing, hey, what's up? How you doing? Hey, how you doing? That was about it with Todd Rundgren. But the show itself he wasn't like rude or anything. Mm-hmm. But the shows like that were very cool. Who else? Oh, Enough's Enough. Yeah, back in the day, I hung out with them quite a bit. Okay. So if they would be playing a show at the House of Blues with like Rad or someone where they were opening for them, me and a buddy would go down and hang with them in their dressing room. So in that respect, it was cool. It was enough. But we did many shows. Taxi have done many shows with enough.
Yeah, Donnie's a cool guy. I had him on the show a few months back. He was promoting his, I believe it's like his entire catalog. He released it on a flash drive, so that was pretty cool.
I saw that all of his solo stuff. Yeah.
Well, this is pretty cool. I never talked to Chip before, but I did have Donnie on, as a solo artist. He's very cool. Yeah. Any other guys you've played with that you care to share about?
Well, I can say I got to play with Poison.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it wasn't an opening thing either. I got to play CeCe's guitar in front of 15,000 people here in the Chicagoland area, and my buddies' jaws were just dropped. They're like, I'm like, hey, it just happened. So that was cool. Mm-hmm. Who else? Oh, I've done I've had different types of cover bands or original bands too, and I've done shows with Survivor. Got to hang out with Robin McCauley in catering. That was cool.
Oh yeah, he's cool too.
He was very cool. Yeah, he released a new solo album, and he's he has a band with Red Beach now called Black Swan, and they're doing their second album now.
Undertow. That's a project you worked on too, right?
Well, that wasn't necessarily my band. That's a buddy's band that they had some problems with their guitar player, and they asked me if I wanted to join the band. And it's music that I'm not necessarily into, really heavy, like down to C tuning. And I was like, sure, I did it for fun, but it was a cool thing. And we released like an EP just for like at shows. It was never, the band didn't last that long, but we opened for like Crowbar, if you know who they are.
Yeah, I've heard of them.
Yeah, we opened for them back in the day, and we did some shows like that. But it was just the first song I wrote for Undertow. After they asked me, they didn't want to do it because it sounds more heavy melodic. I'm like, well, I'm more of a melodic guy, but once they started playing the song, you're like, man, this is such a great song to play. Like I told you.
You mentioned earlier that you played pretty much all the instruments on the album except for singing. Now, do you and David have any plans to do any live shows? And if so, are you going to hire a bunch of guys to play?
Well, I definitely have talented buddies in my area. So if I wouldn't have a problem getting musicians if the right shows came up. My thing about live is I don't want LastWorld to be a band and we're playing a small little, bar. It's not. I didn't start this project just to be a bar band.
Okay.
So if the right opportunities, right shows, offers come up, I have no problem doing some live things here and there. But it's got to be the right thing,
Like a Monsters of Rock festival, something like that, or Rocklahoma. Would you do that?
Festivals overseas, festivals in the States, where just not your local bar.
Right, I could see that. I mean, Rocklahoma or the Monsters of Rock, that would be pretty cool to do that.
Oh yeah.
Besides LastWorld, are you working on any other projects you want to talk about?
Well, that's something that just kind of came up. Like I said, I write, and having my own studio, as soon as an idea pops into my head, I can go and record it right away.
Mm-hmm.
So I always have a ton of songs. So yes, I've always had something in the back of my head as maybe having two projects. That way, with all the writing I do, we could have LastWorld recording a certain time, because David's pretty busy himself. So sometimes it takes him a while to get his vocals down for a song or even a whole album.
Mm-hmm.
So this way, I can be working on two things, consistently. And then, so yes, I do we haven't started recording yet, but I've got some songs written and I'm recorded musically. We haven't recorded the vocals yet. So I will be starting a second project within, the next month or two.
Now, when you say we, is that another band?
It'll be, again, with me playing all the instruments and a singer coming in, a different style singer, because there's no point in having someone that sounds close to Cagle. I might as well just keep LastWorld going.
Right.
But the buddy I got coming in can pretty much do, he can do Donnie V to almost a T.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Sound like that, yeah. But his band is signed to Pavement Records.
Yeah, I've heard of them.
Yeah, so I won't announce, because we don't have a name for the project. So once we get underway, obviously we'll announce in greater detail what everything is.
So what are we looking at? Maybe the summer of 2022?
If everything falls in line, yeah, we could probably have something done midsummer, late summer. Yeah, because I already got 9 songs recorded. So
nice.
Yeah.
Do you have a website you'd like to promote?
Well, I don't have necessarily a website, because most people just go to like Facebook or things like that anymore. So Jim Shepard Facebook, LastWorld Facebook. There's still a Taxi Facebook, but that hasn't really been kept up with since, It's been forever.
Now you're on Instagram and Spotify, platforms like that as well?
I'm personally not on Instagram. It's almost hard enough for me to keep up with Facebook. So, but I do have Reverb Nation. I do have Facebook, and LastWorld is on Spotify. Well, actually, some of my solo releases are on Spotify too.
Very cool. So, if someone was interested in purchasing like your solo stuff or LastWorld, who are some of the services that sell it? Is it on Amazon or
Amazon? Actually, as far as
LastWorld, they can get that on PerrisRecords.com, correct? For LastWorld?
Yeah, never forget to mention. You can pick everything up at Perris LastWorld. But yeah, Jaded is still out there as far as my solo album. You might be able to find it just about anywhere. But it was a limited release, and it's a little bit more expensive to get it now.
The collector's
and
item.
Then, well, yeah, I think my family collected it.
That's funny. Perris Records, I think they were having a sale the other day, I think. It's like Cyber Monday or something like that. They were selling a lot of CDs at a discounted rate, so that's pretty cool, especially with Christmas coming around the corner. Everybody go out and grab a copy. We have 3, right? 3 different albums from LastWorld. You can get all 3 of them at PerrisRecords.com, right?
Well, you can get Over the Edge and Fractured Mirror at PerrisRecords.com. They just released our first album digitally. So you can find copies out there on Amazon and anywhere that carries hard discs, physical copies anymore. But no, they didn't release the physical of the first album. Since it was already out there was no sense to re-release it.
Right, just the digital, right?
Yeah, so you can pick up all the digital at Perris Records, but physical copies is Over the Edge and Fractured Mirror.
Very cool. Is there anything you'd like to mention that we didn't talk about today?
Don't text and drive.
That's good advice. I never do that.
That's usually a closing statement I say. Any last words, Jim? Yeah, don't text and drive.
It's not that important. You can wait till you pull over or you get home, right?
If there's an emergency, you can always pull over, but I never got taking your eyes off the road. I mean, and we're not talking that you're glancing in the mirror to see if there's traffic, and people literally take their eyes off the road for minutes texting. I'm like, you're kidding.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen it. I've slowed down because there were people next to me with their eyes buried in their phone while they were driving. So I slowed down, moved to a different lane.
Yeah, that's good advice, man. People should take that. Well, Jim, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show today and talking to me. I really dig the new album. I hope everybody goes out and buys it on PerrisRecords.com. Wish you best of luck with this album and also the new project that you're working on. And, I hope you have a very happy holiday and a great new year. And let's keep in touch because when that new one comes out, I'd love to have you back on again. Well,
thank you for having me on the show. Thanks for being interested in having me on the show. No, seriously, I appreciate it. And yes, keep in touch. I will let you know for the next project, and I'd love to be on the show again.
Absolutely, brother. Well, you take care and enjoy the rest of your day, all right?
Thank you very much. You too.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.